the fifth chapter of ICC 10th biology, that is transpiration. So transpiration, what is transpiration? First, basically we will write the definition. Loss of water in form of vapor from aerial parts of the plant. From aerial parts of the plant. See, loss of water in the form of vapor, okay, from the aerial parts of the plant, like for example stomata. So there is a loss of water from aerial parts of the plant, like stomata, part of the plant that is present on the leaf surface, that is stomata. So water is lost from that. So this is called as the transpiration. Now transpiration, see, from the definition it might seem that it is a loss of water, but the transpiration process has very much high importance in the plant body. So what is the importance? See, here loss of water is taking place, so you might be wondering, there is loss of water, so no advantage. But what happens because of that loss? See, this is a tree or this is a plant and here the leaves are present, okay. If the water loss occurs from all the leaves of the tree, then there is water deficiency in the plant. Then what occurs due to the water deficiency? Root tend to absorb more and more amount of water from the roots. So the need for the water is increased very much, is very high. So transpiration helps in absorbing more and more water from the soil. So more new water will be replenished in the plant body from time to time, and the force that is created due to transpiration, which we call as transpiration pull. Transpiration pull is, we will learn about it later on, but transpiration pull is a force that is created due to transpiration that allows the water to flow, or allows the water that has been absorbed by the roots to flow into the upward parts of the plant. So this is basically transpiration, or what we call transpiration. So there were various experiments being conducted. So we'll look after the experiments. Very simple experiments to understand. First was, what did they do? A plant was kept like this, okay. Now it was wrapped around by a plastic bag kind of, and it was kept in the sun. After a few hours, it was observed that the inner surface of the plastic that was wrapped around the plant had droplets of water on it, okay. So they concluded that when the plant is kept in sunlight or during the daytime, the water droplets accumulated over the plastic surface. So they concluded that water was lost from the parts of the plant. So they termed it as transpiration. And another one experiment was conducted. It was conducted with the use of dry cobalt chloride paper. Now what is dry cobalt chloride paper? Dry cobalt chloride paper is blue in color, okay, it is blue in color, but when in contact with moisture, it turns pink. Dry cobalt chloride paper, it is blue in color, but when it comes in contact with moisture, it turns pink. So what was the experiment basically? See, what did they did? They took 3 setups, like setup number A, setup B, and setup C. So what was seen in this? Okay. What did they did? In one setup, they simply kept a plant. In another, what did they do was take a plant and put a dry cobalt chloride paper, which was blue in color, sticking to that plant, and another only they kept a dry cobalt chloride paper, and all this setup was kept under sunlight. In normal first plant, they could not see any difference because simply plant was kept, so not much observable things were there. But in plant B, what happened is the dry cobalt chloride paper, which was blue in color earlier, had turned into pink. What happened? Blue to pink. So they had the previous knowledge that cobalt chloride paper turns pink only when it comes in contact with moisture. So here turning pink of the cobalt chloride paper gave them the knowledge that moisture has been released from the plant, which led to its conversion into pink color. And in third setup, only paper was kept blue colored, so it had no change because no moisture was available. So because of this experiment also, they came to know that transpiration occurs in plant bodies. So now we will learn about different types of transpiration that occurs. Okay. Now we'll see about types of transpiration. Okay. From which parts, on the basis of parts from which the transpiration occur, types of transpiration. First is stomatal. Next is cuticular. Stomatal is basically the transpiration that occurs through the stomatal openings. Next is cuticle. The layer of waxy coating is present on the plant body. Basically, the cuticular layer, a waxy coating is present to prevent the loss of water, but in spite of the presence of that, the water is lost through the surface of the penetrating through the surface of the cuticle, so it is called as cuticular transpiration. And third is lenticular transpiration. Lenticular transpiration. Lenticels are the special matured or differentiated types of cells found in the old parts of the plant, for example, old parts of the tree, for example, bark of the tree. So they are large cells with some intercellular spaces in between them, like this. So in the intercellular space, the water is accumulated and it is lost in the form of vapor. So these are the three types of transpiration that we are going to learn. The major type of transpiration that occurs is stomatal. So what occurs is in stomatal transpiration, stomata plays a major role, or stomatal apparatus. See, you can see here. These are the guard cells. Few cells surrounding them are present. Okay. This is stomatal opening. This is guard cells. This is epidermal cells. And there are walls over here. This is the stomatal apparatus, basically guard cells, stomatal opening, epidermal cells. This constitute the stomatal apparatus. So water accumulate in the stomatal opening and it is lost through the stomatal opening. Okay. So what occurs is stomata, see, when the stomata open, the water is lost through them. But why do stomata open basically? See, stomata are basically structures, stomata guard cells, these are structures present in the epidermis of the leaves. Okay. Now when stomata opens, water is lost. But why do stomata open first of all? So stomata open because they want to take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So why do stomata open firstly? See, if the plant knows that if stomata will open, water would be lost, then it would resort to a conclusion that no, I won't open it. But why does it open? Why do stomata open? To take in carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is taken inside the plant with the help of stomatal opening. So, stomata is open. So when does the photosynthesis occur? During day. So during day the stomata is open. So when during day stomata is open, transpiration also takes place simultaneously. So when the stomata is open, transpiration takes place. So in stomatal transpiration, the water vapor escapes through the stomata of the leaf. Water, after absorption by the roots from the soil, rises up to the stem and reaches the tissues of the leaves through the veins. So what occurs is, when the water is absorbed by the roots, it reaches the leaves, and through the stem it reaches the leaves, veins of the leaves, through the veins of the leaves to the surface of the leaf and all that. So, a large number of spongy mesophyll cells in the leaves have their surface exposed to the intercellular spaces. See what is this basically? The epidermal cell of the leaf contain a few spongy cells in palisade. The epidermal cell contains mesophyll cells. Mesophyll cells. Now what are mesophyll cells? They are chloroplast containing cells. See, mesophyll cells are basically chloroplast containing cells. They help in photosynthesis. So there are two types of mesophyll cells present in the surface of the leaf itself. Okay, like this. Two types of, first is palisade and here is spongy. Now palisade are elongated structures, but spongy are scattered and they have intercellular spaces. So water, when comes from the lower parts of the plant to the leaf surface, water gets accumulated in the this intercellular spaces of the spongy mesophyll cells. Now what happens? Accumulation of this water forms a thin film of water on the epidermis surface. So this thin film of water which is accumulated gets evaporated in the form of vapor. So the entire this surface of the cells give out some of the water vapor as a thin film. The water from this thin film then evaporates and water vapor saturates in the air. Basically, water vapor is lost in the air, and the movement of the water from the leaf surface to outside takes place through diffusion. So here the amount of water in the leaf surface is high as compared to atmosphere. So high to low, from leaf surface to outside the water is lost. So in this way the stomatal transpiration takes place. One more thing remaining about the stomatal transpiration, you can refer to your textbook page number 59 for this. Yes, there is a diagram given, and you can look into the textbook for this. I am going to read the statement over here. Okay, so the statement says that the cells that lose water in this way replace it by drawing more of it from the nearest vein. Most of this water travels along the cell walls, and only small quantity enters the cell by osmosis, and most of it is transferred by imbibition. So what it is trying to say basically? See, this is the leaf. So these are the veins of the leaves basically. So through the veins the water is transmitted. Okay, this is the plant body. The water is transmitted upwards. So in the leaf basically there are different kinds of cells. Okay, so different kinds of cells are present in veins. So from this to this water is transported, from this to this, and later it is evaporated through the atmosphere. But when this loses water to the atmosphere, this will again gain water from its adjacent cell. But how does it gain? It is by imbibition. Imbibition is transfer of water molecules just through cell walls, okay, and with the help of attraction. So the cell wall of this first cell, okay, this is first cell, this is second, this is third. The cell wall of the first cell which has lost water has now attraction for water molecules. So this second cell which has water because of the absorption from the lower parts of the plant. This has water, so the cell wall of the first would feel attraction for the water from second. So through imbibition, water will be transmitted in the first one. Now for second, now the second has no water or very less water, so it will feel attraction for the water from the third. So in this way, the channel of water moves in the leaf and later it is released into the atmosphere. So next line says from the textbook that thousands of leaf cells evaporate water in this way, causing more of water to be pulled from below via the xylem vessels. So basically from lower parts of the plant, the water would be absorbed and transmitted to the transported to the upper parts of the plant with the help of xylem vessels. Okay, now water is transmitted basically by the xylems. So xylem vessels are the tube-like structures which will transport water in the upper direction. And because of this transpiration, a large amount of water is absorbed by the plants, by the lower parts of the plant. So this is called as a very famous term which we call it transpiration pull. What is transpiration pull? A force created by transpiration or a force created due to transpiration that allows the plant body to absorb more and more amount of water is called as transpiration pull. Okay, so that is and the transpiration pull can draw water up to 50 meters. If a plant is of 50 meters, then if a plant is of height 50 meters, then it is very difficult to transport water from lower parts of the plant to upper. So the force called transpiration pull helps in generating that kind of force that it would help in transporting in the upward direction. In previous chapter we had seen two things, transpiration pull and root pressure. A root pressure also helps in transporting the water from lower parts of the plant to upper, but in only shorter plants, because root pressure is not that great pressure or that great force. But in transpiration pull, it is very high. It is very high amount of force created, so it can draw water even up to 50 meters. Okay. Now moving forward, we will see how the stomatal regulation takes place. Okay, stomatal regulation of transpiration. Stomatal regulation of transpiration. Now, how is the transpiration regulated? See, what is basically stomatal regulation of the transpiration? When during the daytime, when high amount of sunlight is available, water is also absorbing high amount of water. Root is also absorbing high amount of water through the soil. So when high amount of water is absorbed, the guard cells of the stomata become turgid. Now more and more water, so guard cells become more turgid. See, earlier the guard cells were like this, but due to absorption of more and more water, it has become turgid. Now due to turgidity, the stomatal pore has been increased. Yes, the stomatal pore has been increased. So stomata is more open, so more water loss takes place. And what happens is, when excess of water is lost through the plant body because of the turgidity of the guard cell, there is deficiency of water felt at some point of time in the plant body. Then what does the plant do? Plant turns the guard cells into flaccid. Now what would occur is, turning the guard cells into flaccid would narrow the opening, okay? Would narrow the opening of the stomata. So narrowing the opening of the stomata would lead to less loss of water. So in this way, transpiration is regulated by the stomata. If there is more water available, guard cells become turgid, excess loss of water takes place. But if the water availability is less, guard cells become flaccid, stomatal pore reduces in size, and guard cells become flaccid, stomatal pore reduces in size, and water loss is prevented. So these are the mechanisms adapted by the plant to enhance or to reduce the transpiration. Now one example is given in your book of the balsam leaf. Now what happens in balsam leaf basically, during the daytime the leaf wilts. Now what is wilting? Wilting is bending down of the leaf. Why does bending down takes place? During daytime the leaf wilts in balsam. Why? Because excess loss of water takes place as compared to absorption. There is very little absorption, but loss of water through transpiration is very high. So leaf wilts due to deficiency of water. But as the day progresses and the night time or evening comes when there is no sunlight or very less sunlight, then what happens is absorption is continuous. So the replenishment, now there is no loss, but water is absorbed. So it is compensating for its loss now. Now the plant is in profit, it is getting much water and less is lost. So the guards start becoming turgid now, and the leaf which had become wilted now reacquires its normal state, that is it is not wilted and it is more open. So reacquiring of the openness is seen in the evening time in balsam leaf. So this was about stomatal transpiration. Now next we are going to say is cuticular transpiration. What is basically cuticular transpiration? Cuticular transpiration is basically the loss of water from the cuticle layer of the leaf or cuticle layer of the plant. Cuticle is a waxy layer secreted by the epidermis on both the surfaces of the leaf, on the upper and the lower surfaces of the leaf as well. So firstly, basically cuticle is more important to prevent the loss of water, but it is said that, see, cuticle is first of all secreted to prevent the loss of water. So greater the amount of cuticle, lesser is the rate of transpiration. Okay, agreed. Now what would occur is, this is the surface of this is the leaf. Around the leaf a layer of cuticle is present on both the sides. Okay, and this is one leaf which has no cuticle. So sunlight directly act on this leaf and water is lost from this. But presence of cuticle decreases the intensity of the sunlight that falls on the leaf. Now because of that, what would happen? The amount of water lost to this would be very less, because cuticle would act as a barrier for the loss of water. So greater the amount of cuticle, greater the amount of cuticle, lesser is the rate of transpiration. So this is it. But in spite of presence of cuticle, there is loss of water through the cuticular layer. So it is called as cuticular transpiration. Basically, in which areas you would find plants who have greater thickness of cuticle? It is but obvious, the regions in which water availability is less, water loss through transpiration should be prevented. In that areas we would get cuticle as high amount. So in desert plants where water loss is very much risky or it is very much harmful to the plant part of the plant body, in that area cuticle is present in high amount. Next is lenticular transpiration. I had told earlier, lenticles are special cells present in the older parts of the plant. So intercellular spaces are present between them and water accumulates in them. So water is lost through that surface, to that part of the plant. Now most important part that we are going to see is factors affecting transpiration. Now let's see the factors that affect transpiration. So factors affecting transpiration are two, external and internal. External are the external factors outside the plant body that will affect transpiration, and internal are the internal aspects of the plant body that would affect the transpiration. Means either increase the transpiration or either decrease the transpiration. So what are the external factors we can see? First factor is temperature. Now it's simple logic. Increase in temperature outside the plant body would increase the heat. If the increase in heat would lead to more conversion of liquid to gas. So more conversion of liquid water in the leaf surface to water vapor would take place and transpiration would increase. So increased temperature would increase transpiration. Okay, understood? Okay. Next is velocity. Now see, there are moisture is present in the atmosphere. Moisture and water droplets are present in the atmosphere. Because of the moisture and water droplets, what occurs is the transpiration is very much reduced because atmosphere has enough water vapor. So there is no need to get more water vapor from the plant body, so transpiration is reduced. But what occurs is when the velocity, I would write over here, is velocity of wind. Velocity of wind. If the wind velocity increases, see, for example, here, water vapor is present. But if the wind velocity increases, the region from which water vapor is present, it would shift to further side. Because of the wind velocity, the water vapor from one region would be shifted to another side. So the area from which this has shifted, now like this. This area doesn't have more water vapor, so this region would require more water vapor from the plant body, so transpiration would increase. So increase in velocity of the wind causes the water vapor to shift. So causing the water vapor to shift from one position to another increases the transpiration process. So increase in velocity increases the transpiration. But to certain extent there are other limitations. When the velocity of the wind exceeds 50 km per hour. When the velocity of the wind is exceeding, means it is 50 or more than 50, then what occurs is the stomata closes and transpiration is reduced. So up to 50 km per hour, if the wind velocity increases, transpiration increases only. This is limitation, that above 50 if occurs, then no further increase in transpiration takes place. Third is humidity. Basically, humidity is amount of water vapor or amount of moisture in the atmosphere. If the humidity content is very high in the atmosphere, moisture is very high, the atmosphere won't feel any need for accumulation of the more water vapor in the atmosphere. The atmosphere won't want more amount of water in that. So transpiration, what does transpiration gives? It gives water vapor in the atmosphere. So already there is more water vapor or moisture, then it would stop or it would inhibit transpiration. So increased humidity will inhibit transpiration or it will decrease transpiration. Next is CO2 content. Now, if the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere increases, the plant would feel the more need for photosynthesis, because CO2 is essential for photosynthesis. So stomata opens. So as CO2 level increases, transpiration also increases. But most important here, above 0.03%, if the CO2 concentration is above 0.03%, then it closes the stomata. After a certain limitation of the concentration, even if the CO2 increases, the stomata is closed. Now, if the stomata is closed, there is no point that the transpiration would be increased. So this atmospheric pressure. Now, atmospheric pressure is basically when the pressure in the atmosphere is when the atmospheric pressure decreases. See, this is the plant body and this is the atmosphere. In pressure, we always consider the movement from region of high pressure to low pressure. Whatever the substance may be, but movement would always occur from a region of high pressure to low pressure in case of pressure, if we consider pressure. Now, if atmospheric pressure reduces, the amount of pressure in the plant body as compared to that is very much high. So to compensate for this, the high to low movement of water molecules takes place. So thus the atmospheric pressure is brought back to the normality. So as the atmospheric pressure decreases, the plant body will give out more water, that is transpiration would increase. And last is the intensity of light. Intensity of light. See, more the intensity of the light, more is the transpiration, because more heat would be felt by the plant body. So these are the external factors that affect transpiration. I would again repeat it. Temperature if increases transpiration. Velocity if increases, it would shift the water vapor from one region to another. So transpiration would be promoted, that is, transpiration would increase. But only up to 50, above 50 km per hour, the stomata closes and no further increase in transpiration. Next is humidity. If the humidity or water vapor content in atmosphere is more, the atmosphere won't need any more moisture and transpiration would decrease. CO2 content. More the CO2, more the transpiration. More the CO2, more the need for photosynthesis. So in turn, stomata open and transpiration is more. But above 0.03%, it closes the stomata, so no further increase in transpiration. Atmospheric pressure. Atmospheric pressure if reduces, so to compensate it, water is lost from the plant body and atmospheric pressure is brought back to normal. So thus diffusion of the molecules takes place. So here again, low atmospheric pressure if lower, transpiration is higher or increased. Intensity of light, if intensity of light increases, the transpiration will basically increase only. Now talking about the internal factors. So internal factor is basically the amount of water content in the plant body. If the amount of water content in the plant body is very high, then the plant body won't feel any loss in losing the water. So if the absorption rate is very high, the amount of water content in the body is very high, plant body is very high, the water loss would be promoted, that is transpiration would increase. So that is the factors. Now we will talk about adaptations that takes place in the plant body for the transpiration process. Okay. Now we'll see the adaptations seen in the plants to reduce the rate of transpiration. Transpiration occurs and it leads to loss of water. So plant adapt various techniques in their bodily structure so that they can adapt this and so that it can reduce the loss of water. So first is sunken stomata. It is seen in the plant called Nerium. Okay, Nerium. Now sunken stomata is basically the stomata sometimes will have hair-like structures. Now hair-like structures will act as an obstacle for water loss. So water loss can be prevented. Sunken is basically deep stomata. Stomata is not present on the exact epidermis, it is present a little sunken, that is, it is a little deep, so that loss of the intensity of the heat would be reduced to it and loss of water will be prevented. Fewer stomata. If the amount of stomata in the leaf itself is less, the transpiration would obviously become less. So plants sometimes adapt a technique with lesser stomata on the water on the leaf surface. Third is narrower leaf. See, narrower leaf and a wide leaf. A wide leaf will have more surface area. So more surface area, so more evaporation of the liquid into gas. So narrower leaf will have less surface area, so less transpiration. Reduced leaf surface. This is the same. Reduced leaf surface is, so the size of the leaf which is exposed to the sunlight is very much reduced, or the leaves are very much reduced in size. Sometimes they are even converted into hair-like structures, sometimes they are converted into thorns. So these are the techniques for adapting the plant body to reduce the transpiration. Next is loss of leaves. Sometimes in some plants leaves are lost. They are converted into some form of another, like thorns or tendrils or hairy-like structures, or they just fall off from the plant. So if there are no leaves, there is no loss of water in the form of transpiration. And last one is cuticle. Cuticle is a layer of wax coating. It is a waxy layer present on the leaf surface. The waxy layer present called cuticle, so it would prevent the loss of water. So more and more amount of cuticle decreases the rate of transpiration. So plant leaf surface secrete a waxy layer called cuticle on their surfaces. So these were the adaptations to reduce transpiration. So now we'll see the significance of transpiration. So why is the transpiration important? We have seen that transpiration is loss of water. So how can this be advantageous to the plant body? What is the significance? First is it provides cooling effect to the plant body. So basically when the water is lost from the plant body, the various heat which is generated in the plant body through metabolic reactions, it is also lost in the form of vapor. So when a plant body loses water in the form of, or when the water is lost in the form of vapor through the leaf surface, the heat that is generated through various chemical metabolic reactions in the body also is lost in the form of vapor. So it kind of provides a cooling effect to the plant body. Next is the suction force. I have already discussed that suction force is called as transpiration pull. Okay. Now, due to excess loss of water from the aerial surface of the parts of the plant, a suction force, a strong force which will suck the water from the lower parts of the plant to the upper parts of the plant is created because of the loss of this transpiration. So, creation of this strong suction force occurs due to transpiration. So, this would enhance the movement of water and minerals from the lower parts of the plant to upper parts of the plant. Third is distribution of water and minerals. So basically this is the plant body. Okay, here various cells might be present. Okay, see, suppose for example this cell needs certain minerals. So this cell needs minerals. So how would it gain the minerals? Through the soil. But there need to be some stimulus for absorption from the soil. If there is no absorption from the soil, will this get this minerals required? No, it won't get. Or for example, here the cell is present, it needs water. Okay, it needs water. But how would it get? From the soil. And if water is not absorbed from the soil, then this won't get water. This cell won't get water. So basically transpiration creates a pull to absorb the water and minerals from the soil. So because of that pull, the water and minerals are moved upwards in the plant body. Okay, so the upward parts of the plant that feel the need get the required material. Like this cell would get the minerals that it requires, this cell would get the water it requires. So a column of movement of water and minerals takes place due to the transpiration. Next up is evaporation and transpiration. See, in your textbook difference between evaporation and transpiration is given. Okay, evaporation and transpiration. That is the homework for you that you have to write down in your book and send it to me. So evaporation and transpiration difference between is given, and another difference between that you need to write is guttation and bleeding. That I am going to just teach you, but these two are the difference between that you need to write in your book. First is evaporation and transpiration, next is guttation and bleeding. Now we'll discuss what is guttation and what is bleeding. So guttation and bleeding. Okay. Now see, guttation is the loss of water from the surface of the leaves through an opening called as hydathodes. What is guttation? It is the loss of water from the surface of the leaves through an opening called as hydathodes. So water is lost in the form of droplets through guttation. Okay, water is lost in the form of droplets, and basically the force responsible for the loss of this water can be termed as root pressure. So root pressure is seen in shorter plants. So in shorter plants like grasses, in grasses what occurs is high amount of water absorption leads to loss of water from the hydathode openings, and this is called as guttation. And whereas bleeding is when you cut a part of the plant, the water is flowing in the upward direction in the plant. Okay, but when you cut a part of the plant, the sap and water come out of that. Exudation of the sap when you cut a part of the plant is called as bleeding. So you would see here the definition or the difference between loss of water through edges through the hydathode openings. Basically hydathodes are nothing but the small spaces present in the leaf surface, on the epidermis of the leaf surface, the small structural space present in the leaf surface through the hydrathodes. Okay, and in bleeding, loss occurs through injured parts of the plant. Through injured part. So when a part of the plant is injured from that part, exudation means removal or coming out of the water and sap minerals is seen. So bleeding is lost through injured part of the plant, and guttation is through hydathode openings. And what is lost is water and minerals are lost. And here mainly sap. Sap is minerals and sugar molecules. So water and minerals are lost over here, sap and sugar is lost over here. Now it is now at what time of the day occurs guttation? Occurs mainly in early mornings. I had spoken about this in the previous chapter that guttation is present throughout the day, but it is dominated by transpiration throughout the day. So guttation is mostly seen in very early morning. So it is seen in early morning, and it occur and bleeding is seen at time of injury. Whenever there is injury seen in the plant body. And example in which it occurs is banana, strawberry, etc. And guttation and bleeding would basically take place in all the parts of the plant, in all the plants in which injury occurs or injury happens by chance. Okay, so this much. So basically guttation and bleeding, these two are called exudation of sap. Exudation means small molecules of water and minerals oozing out. Oozing out means coming out. So guttation and bleeding are called exudation, means exude out means ooze out, small molecules to ooze out from the plant body. So basically guttation is loss of water and minerals, bleeding is loss of sap and sugar. So with this we can conclude the chapter. It is a very simple chapter. You have to learn few basic definitions like types of transpiration. There are 3 types: cuticular transpiration, stomatal transpiration, and lenticular transpiration. Then how are the plant bodies adapting to the transpiration, what are the changes, then which factors affect transpiration, what is guttation, what is bleeding, what is evaporation, what is transpiration. So these are the basic difference between and all these things, and few experiments that dry cobalt chloride paper experiment, etc., etc. So these are the small things that you need to remember in this chapter. Okay, you can make notes of this.